take the legacy and put in your bit, which is more important. And that's what's going to shine out better than the legacy, I feel. Adapt yourself to the current scenario. It's really important. Things are changing drastically, and a dormant scenario will not help you in any way. So you need to innovate. Since the current graduates are from CAD/CAM, I feel technology has taken over the Babu systems, which were there in our time of work. But now it's very different. So coming back to the same subject of legacy vis-a-vis your freedom of choosing your path, I think the blend is very important. And if somebody has a legacy, you should be privileged to use it. At the same time, don't forget the freedom that you can demand or take as you've been given to, reinvent the path, which is really, really important. Don't simply walk the same way as it's been happening. It won't help. So might as well choose a more modified path to make it in a better way. When we started retailing in Dubai, we understood that jewelry is only a part of the luxury retail. However, in India, jewelry dominates the luxury retail, both financially and in matter of the spread that we have in luxury retail in India, where jewelry is concerned. However, in internationally, when you see luxury, it's across categories. So it's from metals, of course, to gemstones, to leather, to home decor, to you name it, and luxury has entered everywhere. In fact, in Dubai now you have luxury houses which are signed off by Bulgari and Aston Martin. So that's the extent of luxury beyond cars and other things also. We being in retail, I would love to have a piece of the pie across categories, and that's another area where Ghana Bears would be looking into, of even probably selling yachts online. So gemstones is very strong as a category. What's good is that there's a lot of maturity in the market today. Consumers are influenced by international trends, hands-on. So it's same time it's launched internationally. Consumers understand that you have a Zambian emerald compared to Colombian emerald being demanded, and there's a conversation which is important, that you need to have a real gemstone vis-a-vis what has been going on in the market as stimulants, where gemstones are concerned particularly. So there is a demand, there is a very constant, you can say, requirement to flaunt those pieces. Hence, gemstones for sure, 2025 will be very strong in gemstones. Is e-commerce, if you're talking about particularly, is going to help everyone. There's no shying out of it. B, it's a technology that you have to adapt and go ahead with. If e-commerce is helping you grow inventory, might as well. If e-commerce is helping you connect with people, that's excellent. That's what you want beyond your four walls of the store that you're working on. So henceforth, I don't think there's anything like a retailer with four walls in this world anywhere. Today, you have social media and you're looking at cafes down in Italy and in Dubai sitting here. So if that cafe can do business out of social media, sitting in his own four walls through social media, why can't you do it with jewelry? Especially when your product is reachable out to the other side. So all you need is a good presence digitally to communicate what you want to sell. Whether you amalgamate with vendors, you don't, that's your core, but you have your own story to sell. You have to understand there's a lot of competition, whereas fund managers coming into jewelry industry is there. So they're coming with huge funds, huge number of stores, call it retail, probably it's only trading. You can create your own niche out of that. And you don't need to be in the rut of competing with them. At the same time, create your story so you can be identified as an independent retailer. And today, consumer doesn't care of your background, your financial strength. Basically, they're concerned with the jewelry that you're selling. Thanks to GI, you have a platform which is created to, you can say, put you on the same platform as any other jeweler. The diamond that you're going to sell with a GI certificate is the same diamond a Cartier is selling today. So how are you different? And why should you feel you are different? Or, taken over by another huge MNC or, whatever you may call that terminology to be.
So, welcome to this guest session, and I would like to introduce our esteemed guest for today, Mr. Rajiv Popley from the Popley Group. He is the director of the Popley Group, heading multiple stores in India and Dubai. I would not like to miss out any part of his introduction, and so I would take liberty to read it out. He has 30 years of expertise in the jewelry industry as a third generation member of the Popley family. He's inherited father's business acumen and developed a passion for contemporary abstract art, debuting his creations at the Jaipur Art Summit and exhibiting his oil on canvas artworks at the Art Expo. So, Mr. Rajiv has played a pivotal role in establishing international affiliations with the groups like LVMH, Disney, Yashraj Films, and Swatch. He has significantly diversified the group's offerings by incorporating a range of luxury accessories, including watches, writing instruments, luxury mobile communications, and leather goods. In 2000, he also pioneered the group's online presence by launching the luxury e-commerce platform GhanaBears.com.
We are a 100-year-old company, soon in another 3 years to go. And being the third generation, there's a lot of legacy that one has to take care of. And that's what I've seen with a few graduates who've been talking to me in the morning about the legacy that they have to take over. Small word of advice is take the legacy and put in your bit, which is more important. And that's what's going to shine out better than the legacy, I feel. Adapt yourself to the current scenario. It's really important. Things are changing drastically, and a dormant scenario will not help you in any way. So you need to innovate. Since the current graduates are from CAD/CAM, I feel technology has taken over the Babu systems, which were there in our time of work. But now it's very different. So that's really important. So what we always see in a legacy of a family is, call it a burden, and you may call it freedom. Both need to move hand in hand, and we've been fortunate for both of them with us at all times. So we've got a lot of freedom to choose our path, and we've got a lot of things to take care at the same time, where the legacy is concerned. So my father was privileged to explore beyond the jewelry business. When my grandfather started in 1927, he had to move to India in 47 post-independence, start from scratch. My father at those scenarios was not even able to, have education which was sponsored by the family. So he had to depend on scholarships, and that's how he got into an engineering, and he topped UDCT, which is the topmost engineering colleges for India, and Mumbai. So that's a hard way of putting things through. In spite of that, he had the freedom to choose away from the jewelry industry and do an engineering path. So typically how we always hear stories of, entrepreneurs and, doing the difficult way out and start studying below the street lamps. We've gone through all that with my father. Fortunately, not with us. We've been privileged to have the best of education as required from school to college and beyond. But again, as I said, we had the freedom. At the same time, there was a path already created for us, which is to enter the jewelry industry down the line. I'm happy to pass it on to my children the same way, where we've given them the freedom. My daughter is currently studying in Vancouver, studying business in UBC, and my son is in Imperial London, studying engineering, all away from the jewelry industry to start with. And let me see how they, find their way back into the jewelry industry in some manner and help me either in the front or the back end of the trade. Depends as to their, again, area of interest. So coming back to the same subject of legacy vis-a-vis your freedom of choosing your path, I think the blend is very important. And if somebody has a legacy, you should be privileged to use it. At the same time, don't forget the freedom that you can demand or take as you've been given to, reinvent the path, which is really, really important. Don't simply walk the same way as it's been happening. It won't help. So might as well choose a more modified path to make it in a better way. GhanaBears has been on a experimental mode since it was launched. So it started with a jewelry website, homegrown out of the brand, typically as a corporate site, and then we tried to put in plugins of shopping and experiences. Our primary aim at that time was to bridge a gap geographically, because there's always an area of restriction within the four walls, to grow. And that's where the whole journey started. This was a time when e-com portals were not there in India. We started the time of Rediff and Sifi malls, which were shopping for flowers and chocolates. Jewelry was not the agenda. So this was way back in 98 when we started e-commerce. 2000 is when we got the first license for payment gateways, because that was not allowed for jewelry as a category. Payment gateways were not there typically in India to service your credit card, and there was no checks possible at that point of time. Of course, cut to 2024, we are now equipped with over 6,000 pieces of jewelry live for ready shopping, around 2,000 brands, 2,000 products in watches, which is across, I think, 14 brands of watches, and a solid inventory of close to 100,000 stones, ready to ship immediately. Most of them, of course, are GI certified, and with entire details from videos on the diamond, each diamond, to certificates, all live for ready shipping. So that's the entire amalgamation that we've done for GhanaBase Online. Again, the whole core aspect is to have a geographical reach to our audiences, which is why this was required. And this also supports the hybrid nature. Like we discussed in the morning, that we need the hybrid nature of the legacy of the store to help. At the same time, the e-commerce part helps bridge in gaps, because in a product like diamonds, it's very difficult to have a logistic spanning of 100,000 stones to a consumer, filtered down to his requirement in a span of 30 to 45 minutes, which is what we need to cater to, in that span that we get to service a client. So that's where GhanaBase helps us a lot, because it helps you filter down by entire inventory down to the consumer and service each and every piece to the consumer as required. So whole idea is to have the optimal use of the inventory, which normally doesn't happen once you have a store which is large and in inventory, and trying to understand the consumer requirement, So with a few filters, we can come down to a filter to a consumer and give them just those products, whether it's a budget, design, collection, and so on and so forth. So that the hybrid nature helps a lot on retail. Of course, products like solidaires, typically there's a logistic issue of stocking 100,000 stones, which is impractical, both financially and logistically, and that's where e-commerce comes in a lot. So we're trying to come closer to the idea of how we do an Oyo rooms to an Uber, same in diamonds, which is the next thing to be. The whole idea is to get to a consumer at the right price, the right product that consumer wants, more than me selling what I have over the counter to make my sale. That's how we see it. Luxury is pretty grey in India as a terminology. When we started retailing in Dubai, we understood that jewelry is only a part of the luxury retail. However, in India, jewelry dominates the luxury retail, both financially and in matter of the spread that we have in luxury retail in India, where jewelry is concerned. However, in internationally, when you see luxury, it's across categories. So it's from metals, of course, to gemstones, to leather, to home decor, to you name it, and luxury has entered everywhere. In fact, in Dubai now you have luxury houses which are signed off by Bulgari and Aston Martin. So that's the extent of luxury beyond cars and other things also. We being in retail, I would love to have a piece of the pie across categories, and that's another area where GhanaBase would be looking into, of even probably selling yachts online. So that's the area of luxury which comes in. The whole idea is you have to understand the consumer. The consumer in India is maturing, fortunately, and that's how we connect with them. So whatever we've launched, like products like even Vertu phones, which we were the first to launch in India way back in 2003. They were the first phones when an iPhone was being sold at probably 30,000 rupees. We were selling Vertus over 5 lakh rupees. An iPhone was a smartphone, a Vertu was a Nokia iOS. So you can imagine technology was not the dominance on the mobile, which we always think is technology driven. It was a luxury which was demanding that price, though it was not even made in precious metals. It was just made in titanium. So imagine a titanium phone demanding 12x, 20x the price, and that was the entry level of a Vertu, which was 500,000. We have sold Vertus in India at that point of time over 1 crore rupees. which were partially embellished in diamonds and other things. But whole idea again was a luxury brand which was created synonymous to the category in luxury more than the telecommunication part of it. So people didn't mind an iOS Nokia, which is honestly a redundant subject today, and paying 20x the price. So what's important to understand is the luxury dominates the subject. So you don't need to have hypothetically an IFD color diamond to have the highest positioning of the brand. Your product, whether it's a design, the positioning of the brand equity, and the entire ethos that goes in the brand dominates the product, not the scientific part and the technology part of it. If you see the off late part of it, 2024 second half onwards has been very strong in gemstones. Thanks to Jamnagar issues that we've seen, everything is about green stones, everything is about larger over the box and out of the box combinations. So that's helped a lot. Of course, social media and PR helps a lot, and especially when celebs endorse it. Gemstones is my passion always. So in fact, my line of jewelry, since it's art-inspired jewelry on a personal level, needs colors anyway. So we blend colors which are based on my artwork. And of course, then any color comes into place, wherever the precious part comes into picture. So gemstones is very strong as a category. What's good is that there's a lot of maturity in the market today. Consumers are influenced by international trends, hands-on. So it's same time it's launched internationally. Consumers understand that you have a Zambian emerald compared to Colombian emerald being demanded, and there's a conversation which is important, that you need to have a real gemstone vis-a-vis what has been going on in the market as stimulants, where gemstones are concerned particularly. So there is a demand, there is a very constant, you can say, requirement to flaunt those pieces. Hence, gemstones for sure, 2025 will be very strong in gemstones. Since I've been in the industry, I can understand the consumer demand. There is a maturity level which is there. So consumers who walk in don't want to see pieces which are lying at every corner the same way. They want to see the play and the flair of handling certain things, So working on gemstones, going beyond the normal routine of the commercial angle, which we don't see in my artwork because it's not supposed to be sold in the way per gram and per piece and, that theory. So it's like my artwork. I don't sell it per square feet. So is these pieces which I create. They are sold on collection basis, and they're not sold, in fact, on the jewelry front. They're sold only in my art shows. So the audience is very different. The maturity of the audience is different to understand the category. And that's really important to understand retail, where you position your product. So I have a store in Gold Souk, which is your mass market across 500 jewelry stores. We have store in Bandra Turn Road, again another commercial area. Doing this part is very different. I do this at Art Expo New York. So it's not where jewelry is sold over the counter, it's where art is appreciated. So it's again the maturity of the consumer that you need to tap on, which derives this particular category. And all this is a learning. It's not something which happens overnight that I tell you it's a capsule and swallow it. I'm learning even now to do something like this, which is very different per se. And it's more of a stubborn attitude for me to do things like this. So go to your first question first, which is talking about competition because of partners coming in from different areas, falling on a platform. I don't think you should even differentiate yourself out of them. You're one of them. So why do you feel that you're a retailer, hence you can't cross the wall, As they've crossed it, you can also cross it and amalgamate into a new concept. So the whole idea is e-commerce, if you're talking about particularly, is going to help everyone. There's no shying out of it. B, it's a technology that you have to adapt and go ahead with. If e-commerce is helping you grow inventory, might as well. If e-commerce is helping you connect with people, that's excellent. That's what you want beyond your four walls of the store that you're working on. So henceforth, I don't think there's anything like a retailer with four walls in this world anywhere. Today, you have social media and you're looking at cafes down in Italy and in Dubai sitting here. So if that cafe can do business out of social media, sitting in his own four walls through social media, why can't you do it with jewelry? Especially when your product is reachable out to the other side. So all you need is a good presence digitally to communicate what you want to sell. Whether you amalgamate with vendors, you don't, that's your core, but you have your own story to sell. And that's finally getting to your second question, which is your brand. So once you have created your genes or your storyline very clear as a brand, and that's what will survive. Today, you have to understand there's a lot of competition, whereas fund managers coming into jewelry industry is there. So they're coming with huge funds, huge number of stores, call it retail, probably it's only trading. You can create your own niche out of that. And you don't need to be in the rut of competing with them. At the same time, create your story so you can be identified as an independent retailer. And today, consumer doesn't care of your background, of your financial strength. Basically, they're concerned with the jewelry that you're selling. Thanks to GI, you have a platform which is created to, you can say, put you on the same platform as any other jeweler. The diamond that you're going to sell with a GI certificate is the same diamond a Cartier is selling today. So how are you different? And why should you feel you are different? Or, taken over by another huge MNC or, whatever you may call that terminology to be. As a jeweler, you can easily compete with your same 5-carat diamond, IFD color, hypothetically, with a Cartier selling the same diamond. And then now you justify your price and his price. So there's nothing different typically a brand does beyond that. So take the help of the bodies like a GI and the others who are there, whether it's hallmarking, whether it's anything which comes on a platform equal at par with any other jeweler. And then your design speaks, finally. And the brand ethos, of course. So basically, you have to understand what's selling online. Transparency sells online. Anything that is transparent enough to communicate what you are doing is selling online. That's the reason you saw electronics selling online very easily, because the product category is very transparent. You ended up having diamonds selling online, like I see typically, because thanks to GI, there's a platform created to communicate what you're selling. And there's no ifs and buts in that. That's what the consumer buys. Any transparent product which is very clear to understand. Today, cars internationally are selling online. I'm sure you've heard of Mercedes moving their entire base now to online in India also. So they are signing out of the dealerships in India to sell online. So when a 5 million upwards car can sell in India online, I'm sure jewelry is the easiest thing to sell in that case, provided you're able to communicate the transparency. And of course, there's a maturity level also which is required. So consumer has to understand the grading of a GI for a gemstone and then be assured as to what you're getting is real. How you sell it, of course, matters a lot as the brand is concerned, but the whole idea of transparency is really important. And more transparent that you get in selling online is easier thing for you. When you say certification, you're trying to explain the product. Certification is just a medium. So the more you explain your product, the better is for the consumer to understand sitting miles away. So you have to understand his concept, his fear or apprehension in buying the piece. He is ready to buy a piece if you gave him on his table today. Now you're trying to put him online. Because of the geographical reach, you can actually connect with the consumer in Dubai or Singapore or Hong Kong and sell your gemstone sitting in Bombay. That's what is the whole thing. So you communicate on a platform which is universal. A GI gives you an international platform that my certificate is valid in Hong Kong and in Gold Souk, Dubai, hypothetically. That's your communication. So if you can communicate that well, display it well to the consumer, e-commerce has to be done. There's no option in that. GI can certify gemstones and identify them to the T, which is, now then comes the matter of maturity. Does the consumer understand what a VVS1 in a gemstone is? And so on and so forth. So parameters that is specified by the laboratory have to be communicated to the consumer. That can't be done overnight. Obviously, it's a maturity level. Today, when we started with diamonds, consumers didn't knew about VVS to VS. Even till today, they come with terminologies which they don't understand. So you have to have a whole education run on the floor for diamonds. Gemstone is going to be a little further ahead on the subject. So it's purely a maturity level. And it also depends, once you're doing a website, why is it that you're targeting only India? You can target international markets which are far more mature in this category today. And of course, stay with India at the same time. Let the Indian consumer also mature by the time you communicate your website to the others. So because then you'll be the only one or the first few ones to do it, which is your first-hand approach on the subject. So as an advantage. But today, if you look at Dubai, gemstones are being sold online in Dubai, Thailand, in most parts of Europe. In fact, if you look at Geneva particularly, you are doing business online with gemstones. There is a market. You just need a correct connect as to where you are, and that's the advantage you have online. You can actually pick up the globe and put a pin on it. It's very easy. Of course, it needs a lot of work in the back end, but yes, trust factors is the most core thing in e-commerce per se, more than even a brick and mortar. Though we feel the consumer is very dynamic and very savvy with technology, end of the day, it's the same Indian consumer or any consumer worldwide who wants more confidence to be built, whether you call it touch and feel or whether you call it anything else. Augmented reality, AI, all this is going to help in getting your product across. Of course, the level of risk a consumer takes is purely price related. So the theory why you have a Lenskart selling more eyewear than any other company in the country is because their price points are very low. So you don't mind risking a couple of thousand rupees in getting a pair and then you're satisfied, then you go shopping back again. And that's typically happens in fashion the same way. Fashion is more touch and feel than anything else. Your shirt doesn't fit, it doesn't fit. You can't do nothing about it. So you have companies like Myntra and others who support you with an exchange. All that's confidence building. Now coming back to your subject, it's purely confidence building. Going into a 25 lakh product upwards is not an easy buy for anyone. Forget Indian consumer, for no one in the world. So there's a lot of confidence building. You have to understand how else can you bridge the gap. And best is you who's going to tell you get the answer from, because it's your legacy. You've done this over years of building trust. So who else can explain this better than you? So getting on the call, doing a video call, getting to the consumer, because you've got few consumers and high value products. So you can in fact pamper the customer in the best way possible. Go on a video call, go on chat rooms, keep talking to them, get across products. And you have security services today. Even go and set a trial. So you can actually get a PVC, go and do a personal try on anywhere in the country at very negligible cost. All that's part of e-commerce. At the end of the day, you're stretching beyond your four walls. So sitting in Kolkata, you can do a try on in Jaipur. And BVC is going to cost you a few thousand rupees. That's it. So more than technology, here you're looking at interaction with the consumer. You want to sell the piece across, having tried it on a video call. And that's how you close a sale. So it's more like a private exhibition hybrid into an e-commerce. So there's again learning in every aspect. I'll just give you a small hint. In India, we had the brand logo Popley, and we had a bridal face of a bride way back in 1980s. When we did Dubai, because of the Islamic culture, a bride's face is not communicated. It's very not encouraging per se from a consumer point of view to even have a bride's face in a hand carry bag because of Islamic culture per se, and they're very dominant on that aspect. So we changed that. We removed the bride face and we put a P logo. So there are certain adaptations that keep happening, and it's a learning exercise for us also at the same time. Colors, metals, everything changes across categories, and audiences are very different. Here we're talking about an Asian dominant consumer, which is of course purely Indian in every manner. In Dubai, our Indian or Asian on the whole base is not even 20%. We have 80% which is beyond the Asians. So we can say over 50% which is GCC on the whole. And then the balance 30% is Europeans and the other communities, Russians. So that's the mix. It's a learning exercise. It depends, and it's going to be purely customizable to what you are portraying as a brand. So the fact that we got appreciated by the other communities and the other cultures across is why we venture into the country. And of course, as a person in the industry, you cannot omit Dubai. It's the smallest city with the largest consumption of the metal in the world. So that's incredible for somebody to simply ignore and not be a part of it for any reason. You have to be there at least for the learning exercise. I don't see it as a competition. At the same time, happy that there's more creation happening. For any part of the jewelry which is growing, I'm more than happy. I don't take it as competition to start with. However, creativity has no end. End of the day, the AI is also created by the same human, which is the good part of it.
Designers are working a lot.
Good, they have to. So it's creativity. Whether you do it digitally, whether you do it by hand or your mind. See, what's important is, for me, creativity is a stress buster. I don't need to be doing these lines. I'm not obliged to do these lines. I do it for myself. So there's a certain amount of happiness that you get out of doing things, which is also important, more than just being in the rut of competition. So I can hire, and I have already got a loads of designers in-house, and they do a very good job. I don't need to compete with them at the same time, nor they compete with me. I do it out of my passion. And that's why I have only one line which is in my name. Rest, everything else is what the company sells overall as per different markets and even on the commercial part of it, because my lines cannot be commercially viable. I know it myself. They are out of passion. They are created out of certain aesthetics and gemstones and designs and thought processes, which cannot be put on mathematical runs. So it's a different line. It's creativity. Don't put commercial angle to it. So there's no competition to creativity. That's the first thing. You can have competition in other aspects. There's no limit to creativity that you can keep creating. And I would never hear an artist saying I'm bound by competition by somebody doing another artwork. It is purely on your leverage of creativity that you're getting across, that things are, across communicated to a market which demands it. So obviously you have to be open up and, move around to markets and align yourself to markets to be more relevant. But otherwise, creativity is always going to be under demand. There's no technology can take over the creativity part, because there's no limit to creativity.
Thank you so much, Mr. Rajiv,
My
for
pleasure.
this wonderful session. Right from how technology empowers us in going beyond the latitudes and longitudes, how we should think beyond the geography or the locations that we are in, to the passion that brings out your art, that sets you apart from all the artists. So this was a wonderful session, lot of insights and lot of information on the industry trends, right from the diamonds, the inventory, the e-commerce platform, to what do we look forward to in the coming year, the gemstones. So it was really an amazing session. Lot of information, knowledge that we get about the industry from the director of a brand which is a century young brand, not a century old brand. So thanks to you for doing this for us, for our students. I would request a huge round of applause for our guests.
Thank you. Thank you.